They had no idea how severely your absence would be felt when they opted to give up your reputation in exchange for a momentary moment of acceptance. You are indelible. This reality echoes throughout their lives, serving as a continual reminder of their errors of judgment. The fake approbation they sought crumbled like sand between their fingers, leaving them alone in the aftermath of their lie. On the other hand, you have emerged from the shadows cast by their falsehood. Their attempts to extinguish your light have left no trace. Their remorse comes in waves, sometimes in the quiet moments when memories surface, and sometimes in the sudden understanding that the acceptance they bought for you was useless. As soon as the topic of loyalty comes up in conversation, your name is lodged in their throat. Your intransigence continues to haunt them. They are left with nothing except the knowledge that in their attempt to discredit you, they have only exposed their own flaws. The bus they put you on has already left. I fled the scene. You will be forever carved in their minds, not as a victim, but as the indelible force that they erroneously ignored for something that never truly meant anything to them. It is never an accident when someone betrays you. Rather, it is a decision, a purposeful choice made at a certain time that changes everything. And, at the moment, they could either support you or trade your name for influence. Betrayal is never accidental. They chose to betray, and they now have to deal with the consequences. They assumed that it was a simple option that would bring them closer to gaining the permission they so desperately sought. You, who had been there for them in their darkest hours and stood by them when others turned away, were more important to them than your trust, dedication, and years of unflinching support. They recognized that the affirmation of others was more important than any of these factors. They never considered what they were truly giving up at the time, and as a result, you were reduced to a pawn in their chase of something that would only provide momentary acceptance. They convinced themselves that it was trivial. Perhaps they imagined you wouldn't notice or were too polite and sympathetic to leave the situation. Perhaps they felt they could do damage control later or fix things when it was convenient for them. In comparison, treachery is permanent. Once the boundary is crossed, there is no going back. They went ahead and completed it. They introduced your name into discussions where it had no business being. They twisted stories to fit their agenda, and they jeopardized your reputation in order to gain favor with the people that didn't care about them. It may have been a subtle act, like making a nasty remark, laughing at your expense, or being silent while others spoke poorly about you. Alternatively, there might have been a clear act, such as a physical attack, intentional defamation, or a decision to side with those who attempted to tear you down. Whatever shape it took, the results stayed the same. They misjudged you. They viewed you as expendable and replaceable. They figured losing you would be a little inconvenience in exchange for the approval of those they really needed to please. They assumed they could change the narrative, that your absence from their life would have no consequences. They failed to see that you are not simply anybody. You're the type of person whose absence is apparent. Your passion, commitment, and presence leave a lasting effect. Your absence is evident, and they are fully aware of the hole you have created. They assumed they could take your place, but they're learning that some people are simply irreplaceable. They made a relatively simple decision at the time, but as time passes, regret seeps in. The authorization they sought may be regarded as empty. The people they sought to impress have moved on, and they have made no offer to compensate for their sacrifice. Furthermore, you are no longer able to pick up the parts. They gambled on your loyalty and lost. And now, as they face the repercussions of their own actions, they realize the truth. They exchanged something genuine for something meaningless. They gambled on your loyalty and lost. They made a mistake in betraying you, and they will have to deal with it for the rest of their life. They did not deceive anyone since they had previously been unable to recognize it. They tricked you. You're here with a reason. If you feel called, answer it. Click Join to gain access to exclusive material, in-depth insights, and a supportive community. This is not simply a membership. It's an awakening. Begin your heavenly mission. Join the selected. Not everyone is familiar with the concept of loyalty. Some people are so obsessed by the want to belong that they are willing to abandon even those who have been there for them the most. Their disloyalty is driven by reasons other than hatred or malice. Rather, it is a weakness, a desperate and sorrowful desire to be accepted by individuals who do not genuinely care for them. This is the root of their wickedness. This individual has never been able to stand on their own. They undertake a shape-shifting process based on the people around them, becoming whatever they believe is most acceptable in the moment of your presence. They claim to be friendly. They laughed with you, confided in you, and promised their support. However, when they were in the presence of others, particularly those from whom they need approval, they transformed into an entirely other person. Their devotion had abruptly eroded. Your name had suddenly become something that people may utilize for cheap chuckles or fast social currency. They didn't betray you because they despised you. Rather, they mislead you out of fear of being ostracized. They wished to be accepted by individuals who did not care about them, and their devotion to you was never stronger than their need to fit in. They wished to be welcomed into the group. They now believe that by sacrificing you, they would be able to win acceptance into that circle, and that fitting in would protect them from ever feeling alone. However, in their efforts to fit in, they lost the one person who genuinely cared about them. Their sense of self is so fragile that they will go to any extent to avoid standing out, including turning against someone who has always supported them. Weak people like them will always be subject to the beliefs of others. They will constantly be influenced by the opinions of others. They assumed that betraying you would make them appear to be one of them. They believed it would increase their likability and acceptance. The unfortunate reality is that the people they attempted to impress never truly appreciated them, since you knew them better than anybody else. This deceit caused such profound grief. You witnessed the genuine version of them, which they attempted to conceal from the rest of the world. Regardless of your lack of care or devotion, you saw their problems, failures, and difficulties. When it was time for them to make a decision, they chose to abandon you in favor of others who would not notice if they vanished tomorrow. And now they are bearing the repercussions of their decision. The reassurance they seek leaves them feeling drained. The people from whom they had asked permission had already left, and the person who saw them and supported them when no one else did is no longer present. They are now sitting with that realization and reflecting on their experiences, wondering if it was worthwhile. Was the approval they obtained at the time sufficient to replace what they had lost? The fact that they know the answer weighs heavily on them every day, despite their efforts to blend in with yet another throng. They suffer the repercussions of their own acts, because they have replaced something genuine for something fleeting, regardless of where they go or who they try to impress next. There is one unchangeable reality. They fooled the right person. Regardless of how hard they attempt to disguise it, the truth will ultimately out. And treason cannot be buried forever. It is possible that you will confront them directly, forcing them to look you in the eyes and confess their deeds. Alternatively, someone else may have exposed them, disclosing their falsehoods and forcing them to face the repercussions of their actions. In any case, they can no longer avoid confronting the facts. They have been apprehended, and their guilt is becoming apparent. Initially, they denied it. They twisted the narrative. You acted like a victim and claimed to be overreacting. They lied. They never intended to harm you. They made excuses or claimed a misunderstanding. But, on the inside, they were fully aware of what they were doing. They were merely attempting to cover it up. You aren't here by coincidence. If you feel a tug, a deep knowing that you have been chosen, now is the moment. Click the special thank you button and donate $100 or more to receive deeper insights, unique knowledge, and a path that aligns with your divine destiny. This isn't just a present. It's a declaration, a step towards being the person you were meant to be. Take the call, walk with us, and really accept your destiny. Your adventure begins today. They realized they were betraying someone who had always been faithful to them. When someone throws you under the bus, they realized exactly what they were doing. After the denial strategy failed, they attempted to delegate responsibilities, and then they grew distant. A person who had previously confided in you, laughed with you, and relied on you for support was now avoiding your company, as if they were a child doing something wrong because they were too busy to speak with you and too overwhelmed to deal with the problem. They stopped responding to your calls. Their remarks were imprecise and nasty. However, you were aware that they were not busy. Instead, they felt degraded. They instantly became too polite and attempted to demonstrate that nothing had changed. Phrases that had previously been honest now smelt of desperation. If they weren't avoiding you, they certainly made up for it. They endeavored to pretend as if nothing had happened, but you could see through their attempts to act as if nothing happened. They laughed too loudly at jokes, rushed talks that had previously flowed well, and pretended nothing had happened. Every awkward pause, hesitant gaze, and strained attempt to rebuild what they had wrecked indicated their regret. The weight of their deceit hangs over them like a storm cloud, an inevitable veil of darkness. They see a post, a remembrance, or a reminder of the person they snubbed, and the pain of sorrow hits them like a punch in the gut. When they hear your name while passing, their stomach drops. They've recognized that betraying you was never a fleeting event. Rather, it was a stain that would remain on their conscience permanently. Despite this, they are unable to apologize since they are so proud of themselves. They convince themselves that it is too late, and that even if they attempted to apologize, you would not take it. They may tell themselves that ignoring it is simpler than confronting you, as is recognizing that they have lost something they will never be able to restore. As a result, they hide their guilt. They avoid places, people, and topics that may evoke memories of what they did. Their acts betray them, despite their facade of not caring. Every unanswered message, uncomfortable conversation, every moment of doubt results in the same conclusion. They are conscious that they were mistaken. The difference between you and them is that you don't need their apologies to go forward with your life. You have already identified them for what they are. You recognize that their avoidance, silence, and shame are not yours to bear. Those are the ones who are troubled by the consequences of their decisions. They are the ones who must face the repercussions of their own treason. You, on the other hand, are already free of it. Let's face it, the systems have been rigged since the beginning. And if you keep your eyes open, you can tell. The walls are closing in. So let's be honest about what we're doing. Living paycheck to paycheck, subject to market volatility. They own the land, profits, and rules. They keep you engaged by stacking the cards. However, we do not beg for leftovers. We designed our own table. That is a game designed for you to lose. They first convinced themselves that betraying you had gotten them someplace. Whether it was prestige, approval, or a fleeting sensation of belonging as they stood among their supposed friends. They felt strong and acceptable, and they believed they had triumphed. They didn't comprehend at the time that each second of affirmation came at a cost. And now the weight of misery is crushing them, since the people they attempted to impress do not care and never have. As swiftly as it arrived, the acceptance they sought evaporated, leaving them feeling even hollower than before. They traded something valuable, your devotion, presence, and honesty towards something meaningless. And, as time passes, they are forced to accept that what they lost was far more precious than what they received. At first, they attempted to ignore it. They told themselves that moving on would be simple and that your absence would be insignificant. However, life has a way of exposing our weaknesses in the most negative ways possible. They are continually reminded of you, whether through old messages, shared experiences, or the veneration with which others speak of you. Yet their own name fades as they hear stories about your successes, perseverance, and capacity to move along without them. People are envious because you did not appear out of thin air. You thrived despite their absence. They anticipated you to crumble under hardship. They expected you to plead for an explanation, demand an apology, or attempt to win them back. You did the unimaginable and walked away from the situation. You didn't battle for their friendship acceptance, or validation. You did not strive to bring yourself down to their level. Rather, you just abandoned them to face with the disaster they had caused. In contrast, silence speaks more clearly than any conflict. Now they are haunted by what they have lost. Inside jokes that are no longer meaningful. Conversations that used to flow naturally but will never happen again, as well as the sense of security they felt when they were with you, knowing that they could be themselves without fear of being judged since they believed that everything was always there. They took everything for granted. However, you were never something they could throw away. You were never an option for them to discard and then reclaim whenever they wanted. As they sit in the aftermath of their decisions, they recognize that you are indispensable in their lives. They watched from the sidelines while you advanced, and others saw your worth in ways they never did. And it saddens them because they know no one will ever do what you did. Nobody will care for them the way you did, and no one will assist them in the same way you did. The most devastating thing is that they did it to themselves after losing you, and the loss is irreversible. They believed they could take your place. They were persuaded that time would end your existence. They believed that new connections, partnerships, or distractions would fill the emptiness you had left behind. However, they have learned that you are irreplaceable. What you brought to their lives is more important than who you were to them. It isn't simply about who you were to them. Your drive was unsurpassed. You did more than merely exist in their world. Rather, you boosted it completely. People will remember you for your dedication, expertise, and ability to see past people's masks while continuing to love them. And now, as they face with the repercussions of their acts, they understand they will never meet another person like you. They can see it in the people who are attempting to take your place, no matter how hard they try. Even if they claim to have moved on, they cannot find someone to replace you. Surround oneself with others and develop new relationships. They are aware of the difference in emotional states. The discussions lack depth. Laughing has a different impact, and the relationship is weaker. It is a phony and bad copy of their past connection with you, as you did more than simply give them companionship. Instead, you provided them with something genuine. Your very presence was a powerful force. You gave comfort, stability, and understanding to the situation. You listened intently every time they spoke. You were always available to aid them when they needed it. You could see them for who they truly were, not simply the personas they gave to the world. This is why the wound you made will never completely heal. People who were your ex-partners are still concerned about you. Old pals are feeling the pressure of your absence. And even family members who used to take you for granted are beginning to regret their decisions. The reason for this is not because you wish to keep them. Rather, they are unable to go past the fact that you are here. They may sense it in quiet moments when nostalgia strikes and prompts them to recall. They sift through old images, examine previous debates, and feel the sorrow of what they have lost. They get a knot in their gut when they hear your name mentioned in conversation, because they know you are still spoken about, respected, and loved. But they are just a fading memory in your story. They used to think they could get rid of you without repercussions, but now they realize what everyone else does. You cannot be replaced, and this realization will remain with them for the rest of their lives. Despite its discomfort, this deceit taught a valuable lesson. Your level of dedication is something not everyone can handle. Not everyone should have access to your enthusiasm, generosity, or presence. And you now understand it better than you ever have before. The person who fooled you believed that their actions would only affect you. However, in actuality, they exposed themselves. They showed you who they actually are. Someone is prepared to give up something valuable for a fleeting moment of approval. Furthermore, if someone reveals their actual nature to you, believe them. When you were younger, you gave them the benefit of the doubt. You thought that if you were loyal, kind, or compassionate, others would value you in the same way you valued them. However, this is no longer the case. Loyalty isn't a universal language. Some individuals only realize your worth after you've passed away, but that doesn't mean they deserve another chance. You're no longer bound to seek closure. Their remorse is sufficient proof. the manner in which they avoid you, the way people pause when your name is mentioned, and the way they sit with the weight of what they've lost is proof of your closure. You don't need an apology, and you certainly don't need validation from someone who never earned you in the first place by their behavior. This was a terrible incident, yet it was also a godsend. It taught you to use discretion. It taught you to stop devoting your efforts to those who do not appreciate it. It taught you that not everyone who smiles at you is a friend, and that not everyone who professes to love you understands what genuine love is.